Good afternoon, everyone. It's Miss G again, and we're going to keep talking about communication and what we need to do when we have a problem and we want to get to the solution. So yesterday we started talking about the road that we've taken before, and it's our iMessage road. So a lot of our problems can be solved with the sentence, I feel blank when you blank. We name our feeling and then we say why we feel that way. But sometimes we'll still have the problem and we're not at the solution. That's when we want to add more details. We say, I feel sad when you call me names because... And then you tell them why. Because a real friend wouldn't call me names I don't like. Or, I feel sad when you talk down to me because it lowers my self-esteem. And then, we want to add one more part to this. We want to add how to get to that solution. And we say, I want you to stop calling me names, or I want you to be kind to me. That way we're telling them exactly how we feel, what they did to make us feel that way, why it makes us feel bad, and then we're coming up with a solution together. So that way we're also not going to put up any roadblocks. But what's a roadblock? A roadblock is something that's going to prevent us from getting from the problem to the solution. And some of them are things that we might not think of, like blaming someone. When we blame someone, we say, it's your fault that I feel sad, or it's your fault. And that takes up the whole road. We can't get from our problem to our solution. Another roadblock that sometimes comes up, and we really don't want it to, is name calling. You broke my pencil, you big lummox! That wouldn't make someone feel good, and it's not on iMessage. So we want to make sure that we're not using those kinds of messages and name calling friends, because again, we won't be able to get to our solution. There's also the roadblock of threatening somebody. And this is one that can be more serious because it makes the idea that you might harm someone else. If you don't give me my pencil back right now, I'm gonna... We don't want to use sentences like that when we have a problem. We want to say, I feel angry when you take my pencil because you didn't ask permission. I want you to ask me before you take my things. And we never want to threaten someone. We're going to stick that down nice and low too. And the last one is exaggerating. Exaggerating is when we have a small problem, and instead of it staying small, we're going to make it blow up into the biggest problem there ever was and there ever will be. Like that time in first grade when Sally broke my purple crayon, and she broke it in first grade and I'm still mad at her. It was in first grade and it's a purple crayon. Do we really need to blow it up again when we're older in fourth grade or fifth grade or high school? No. We don't need to make any of our problems bigger than they actually are. So when we're on this road, we want to do our best to use an I message statement to say how we feel, why we feel it, and what's happening. We want to give a solution if we can, or say what we want. That way, our friends and our loved ones know exactly what we're talking about. And we're going to see if we can find or use any iMessages in our book today. It's going to be another Franklin book for today, which is super exciting. I really love Franklin books. And our book is Franklin is Bossy. Franklin the turtle could zip zippers and button buttons. He could count by twos and tie his shoes. He had lots of friends, and one best friend named Bear. They played tag and marbles, hopscotch and ball. But one day, something awful happened. Franklin and Bear had a fight. It was a steamy summer morning. Franklin told his friends, "Let's play marbles." And they did. After a while, Franklin said, "I'm tired of marbles. Let's have a race." "You always pick the games," grumbled Bear. Franklin paid no attention. They started to run. Bear was in the lead. Goose followed close behind. Franklin saw that he was losing and cried out, "Slowest one wins," as he crawled across the finish line last. "That's not fair," said Bear. Franklin ignored him. "I'm tired of running. Let's play baseball." Franklin wasn't listening. Bear did not put on his mitt. He did not put on his cap. He was mad. "It's too hot. I don't want to play," said Bear. "Me neither," said Beaver. "It's not too hot," said Franklin. "Is too," said Bear. "Is not," said Franklin. "I don't want to play with you, Franklin," shouted Bear. "And I don't want to play with you either," Franklin shouted back. So I know it's hard to see on the video, but when Franklin said it's not too hot, there was an exclamation point, which means he was yelling at his friends to do it. Because exclamation points mean we want to say it loud and proud. Franklin stomped all the way home. "What's wrong?" asked his father. "There's no one to play with," answered Franklin. "Maybe your friends will come by later," said Franklin's father. "Maybe," he said. In his room, Franklin built a castle. He made a cape to be brave in. He made shields and swords and suits of armor. He drew pictures. He played house. He read stories. He played by himself for 1 whole hour, and then he didn't know what to do. So, Franklin went looking for company. His friends were in the river, cooling off. "Are you still hot?" he asked. "No," they answered. "Then let's play ball," said Franklin. He said it, he didn't ask them. Before anyone had a chance to say a word, Franklin started giving orders. "Bear, you play first base. Goose and Beaver, you go to the outfield. I'll be the pitcher." "No way!" shouted Bear. "I don't want to play with you. You are too bossy." All of Franklin's friends nodded. "Bear's right, Bear's right, Bear's right," they said. Franklin turned his back and went home. There was no one to play with and nothing much to do. So he helped his father all afternoon. They weeded the garden and washed the floors, and they made supper for Mole because he was sick. "You're a good friend," Mole told Franklin's father. On the way home, Franklin asked, "Do you and Mole have fights?" "Sometimes," said Franklin's father. "But we always make up." Franklin played alone for another whole day. He missed Bear and all his friends, and he had lots of time to think. He would go to Bear and apologize. Franklin and Bear met on the bridge. I was going to your house, said Franklin. And I was going to your house, said Bear. I'm sorry, said Franklin. It was all my fault. No, it was my fault, said Bear. Mine, said Franklin. No, mine, said Bear. Stop! Shouted Beaver, who was listening under the bridge. This is silly. Beaver slapped her tail so hard that Franklin and Bear jumped. They started to giggle. Friends? Asked Franklin. Friends, said Bear. Beaver wanted to play baseball. Bear and Goose and Duck agreed. They were picking teams when Franklin insisted on being the pitcher. Again. All together his friends shouted, No fair, Franklin! Franklin knew they were right. He couldn't always be pitcher. It was his turn to play in the outfield. And it wasn't so bad, for although Franklin didn't catch a single ball, he did catch a lot of flies. The end. So we can definitely think of a bunch of times where an I statement could have been used in the story. It could have been used in the beginning when Bear started to feel frustrated at Franklin, and Franklin could have used it instead of shouting at Bear. So I hope you guys can think about some I statements and I messages to practice with. And tomorrow we'll be playing a little game practicing how to solve our problems with the I message road. Thanks and have a wonderful afternoon.